Another type of dependent support is child support, but calculating child support is even more confrontational because it's based not only on the difference in income, but also on who gets the most time with the kids.
Are you going to have your kid 86% of the time, like in a sole custody situation, or only 50% of the time as in a shared custody situation? There's a lot of money at stake for both the high earner and the lesser earner.
Now, at this point, we have 0% with dad and 100% with mom. So now, watch what happens overall as I increase timeshare.
It turns out the more time you spend with your children, the more child support you get. The family court system has actually created a financial incentive for people to fight court battles over their own children.
It probably quadrupled the amount of contested custody matters that we have.
The kids are the pawns.
I use the term little bags of money when there is a contested case over physical custody of the children.
People go and do battle because they have these remarkable incentives.
Interestingly, child support is not based on what you spend or need for your children, but on how much you make.
About a third of your gross income, up to $250,000, that's going to go over here for child support.
But that's calculated before taxes, so it actually ends up being more like 50 to 60% of your take-home pay.
I absolutely have payor spouses, whether they be the husband or the wife, come in all the time and say, this is completely unfair. I'm dividing everything I have and giving half of it to my spouse, and I'm still gonna keep working just as hard as I've been working to continue to support my spouse and my children. How am I supposed to go on and have a new life?
All else being equal, if you had your choice between receiving $1,000 of child support or $1,000 of spousal support, then you'd prefer to get the child support, because you're not going to pay taxes on it.
You know, that child support can quickly become more like alimony. It can become monopoly money, play money, mad money.
Mr. Colati, let me start with you. $320,000 a month in child support. They need $144,000 for travel, $14,000 for parties and play dates, $436 a month for care of Kira's bunny. This seems to be as much or more about Lisa Kerkorian's lifestyle than Kira's.
Family courts justify granting child support at levels higher than what is needed for basic necessities and education by claiming that children in America are entitled.
Child is entitled to the lifestyle of the non-custodial parent.
Now, is there research that supports that it would be bad for a child to go from a high standard of living to a lower standard of living?
There might be, I'm not aware of it, but just makes sense.
There's absolutely no research that indicates that a child who spends part of the time in a more affluent environment and part of the time in a less affluent environment is going to wind up any different than one who spends time in equally, it doesn't make any sense.
Most of the time, it's not an issue of money. I don't think the business of equalizing the standard of livings is a requirement for children to be happy after divorce.
And child support, since it's based on the amount of custody, can be relitigated at any time.
Custody will always be something that could be modified. So you could resolve the entire case, and then 2 years later, somebody could come back and say, custodial schedule is not working, and there needs to be a change.
And the child support formula is so complicated that it can even be used to make a low-income parent pay money to a wealthy parent. This happened in Wendy's case. When she went to court to get help with visitation, the judge ordered her to start paying child support to her ex-husband, even though her ex-husband's income was much higher.
My ex-husband was living in a $1 million house. He had several very expensive cars, and his income was about $400,000 a year. I produced my pay stubs, my bank statements, my tax returns. I begged the court to not order me to pay child support because of my financial situation. My monthly expenses alone, out of my income of $2,400 per month, were $3,000 a month. So I was already negative $600 a month. I was ordered to pay my ex-husband $775 per month.
These people end up racking up a big child support debt. A lot of states have interest on the debt. Sometimes that interest is as high as 10 or 12%. And the person ends up saddled with a debt that they can no longer pay.
I ended up losing all of my cash lost all of my credit. And when I had nothing left, then my mom spent her retirement money to help me.
Wendy didn't see her daughter for 2 years and ultimately ended up losing custody altogether.
I felt very victimized by the family court, and I think that my children were the biggest victims of the family court. It's very frustrating and it's very depressing to have gone for help and then to come out with your family destroyed.